It is August, and like a light switch was flipped on. The tropics seem to have come to life this month, and we're watching right now Tropical Storm Erin, which by the time people listen back to this podcast could be Hurricane Erin, right, Frank?
Might well be. It's starting to intensify out there over the Atlantic. It has 50-mile-an-hour winds now, and it might well be a hurricane by, well, maybe not this time tomorrow, but maybe in 30 hours from now or 36 hours, it could be a hurricane. It has had some struggles to this point because it's been embedded in a dry and stable air mass, and also the waters have not really been all that warm. Unlike recent years, the Atlantic waters are not far warmer than average. Instead, they're actually near or a little below average in some areas out there. But the farther west Erin gets, the farther it gets away from those cooler waters and moves over waters that are warmer over the southwestern part of the Atlantic. So as it moves over warmer waters and encounters a more favorable air mass, we expect that it's going to strengthen some more. We'll start here by looking at the 7-day tropical weather outlook. And of course, you can see Erin there well east of the Lesser Antilles right now. There's also another area that we're watching that's over the Yucatan Peninsula right now. It's a tropical wave that has a small chance, the Hurricane Center is calling it a 20% chance for it to develop over the Bay of Campeche or western Gulf of Mexico. If it were to develop, it's still not going to be a problem for us in the Carolinas. It's heading toward Mexico and Texas. Whether or not it develops, it'll produce some heavy rain out there. If it does, then maybe some gusty winds and a little storm surge too, but it's not likely to become a strong system. So right now, the main area of concern is Erin, really the only great area of concern. And there it is. It's that blob on infrared satellite pictures there out over the area just east of the Lesser Antilles. Well, not just east. It's several hundred miles, actually. But you can see that there's thunderstorms blowing up out there around the center of Erin. That was not happening 24 hours ago. So now there's some pretty good thunderstorm activity near the center, and that's a sign that Erin's starting to move over some warmer waters and encountering more favorable conditions, and it's starting to strengthen. So let me turn on the forecast track here. By the way, this satellite imagery available from the Real Earth website run by the University of Wisconsin. It's a really nice website to view satellite data, and I use it extensively. So you can see where the cone goes there, going north of the Lesser Antilles. That's the expected track anyway, and north of Puerto Rico, and ending up starting to take a right turn and through days 4 and 5 as it's going north of the Dominican Republic. And that is what we hope happens there. The models are mostly showing that. Let me start with looking at the ATCF models, the hurricane-specific models and their tracks from the Tropical Tidbits website, operated by Levi Cowan. He's been a guest here on Carolina Weather Group before, and he's a really sharp guy. And his website's a good one to view model data in general. It's all free. But anyway, you can see it shows a general north, or rather west-northwest track that takes it north of the islands, and then recurving nicely there, and right between the uprights, with Hatteras being on one side and Bermuda being on the other. The GFS ensemble, this is from a site called weathernerds.org, also a good site to view computer model output. And this is the GFS ensemble, the GFS with some run several times with some minor perturbations to the input for each different run, and that's where the different tracks come from. The ensemble here shows most of the tracks going well to the east of us, but you see there's one outlier that has a landfall occurring about 8 days from now, close to Wilmington. But again, that's just one out of 31 in total. There's the Canadian ensemble is even further to the right, but there's the ECMWF, the EPS ensemble, which has 50 members and a control run. And it's a little bit further west, not way further west, but a little bit. But it also only has a couple of ensemble members that show a track far enough to the west that we would have a concern. So that would be sort of like a 4 or 5% chance if you wanted to convert that to a probability, like a 4 or 5% chance with a couple of members out of 50 showing getting close enough for significant impacts here in the Carolinas. Some of those other western ensembles might bring some wind and rain to the North Carolina coast, but probably just a slight brushing there. It's those only those two that actually show a landfall somewhere in North Carolina that would be of a great concern. As far as intensity goes, it looks like this is going to become again a hurricane within about a day to a day and a half, and then likely a major hurricane once it gets to the area north of Hispaniola. And that is the forecast. Here's the official cone graphic for Erin from the National Hurricane Center, showing a actually continued slightly south of due west motion at first, but then a west-northwest track as it strengthens to a hurricane by early Friday, and then a major hurricane by Sunday once it's north of Puerto Rico. But also they're showing a turn to the north, and if you extrapolate where it goes from there, most likely going west of Bermuda, but staying east of Hatteras, which would be perfect. That's exactly what we want it to do, because that would result in not many impacts on land for anyone. Going forward here, I did want to show a couple of other things. For example, the eastern part of the Atlantic. There's Erin right here. I'm showing this because there are going to be some more concerns behind Erin. There's another tropical wave here, just west of Cabo Verde, and another tropical wave that looks fairly impressive over West Africa. And then one more way back here. And this one is another one that the computer models are kind of jumping on in the long range. And that's what the European model's doing with it at the end of the run. This is not to say that we should expect a hurricane to be on the verge of hitting Texas 16 or 15 days from now. That is not what anyone's forecasting, but it's just what one computer model's showing. The ensembles for this, well, actually, some of the European models ensembles don't show any development at all. Others show a totally different track than this, but this is what the operational model's showing. So the useful information we get from the models is that we do have to watch for that to develop and possibly also becoming a hurricane in time, but that is way down the road, and we have the bigger fish to fry first, which is Erin. And we'll have to keep an eye on it closely, because if it were to get much further west than forecast, there could be some impacts in the Carolinas. But right now, it looks like there aren't going to be any significant impacts, with one exception, in that Erin is going to generate some swells over the Atlantic. And in time, we're going to see those swells come into the East Coast. For example, the GFS has sea state output. It does. It shows what the wind waves and swells are going to look like. Excuse me, in the future, or at least a prediction of that. And if you go out in time, this is out to Sunday, and there's Monday, and by the time we get to late Monday into Monday night and into Tuesday, the GFS wave output is showing some pretty big swells coming into the East Coast. That's those greens there are 6 to roughly 9 foot waves coming in, and some potentially even bigger waves than that coming into North Carolina, especially the Outer Banks. So once we get to about Tuesday, and then probably going through at least Thursday, some rough surf and potentially dangerous marine conditions are going to be out there for those who want to be out on the water or at the beaches during the middle part to end of next week. So that's how the tropics are looking and how things are looking with Erin, James.
Thank you for that update. And yes, I think one way or the other, we're in for some rough surf, some rip currents, some coastal impacts from Erin. Let's bring in Scotty Powell in Myrtle Beach. Scotty, what are you guys forecasting for your beaches there?
Yeah, we're right now just looking at possibly some coastal impacts from like the storms, not storms, sorry, to the rip currents. And it looks like everything right now is definitely going to be staying offshore, because I'll tell you, after the last 2.5 weeks here, where we've seen anywhere between 8 to 12 inches of rain, we definitely don't need any rain impacts from Erin. So thankfully, we're liking the trend right now where it's going to be staying off our coast, but it's something that we're definitely going to continue to watch. And we know basically it's going to come down to how strong the high pressure is off over to the Bermuda. The Bermuda high, as well as the high pressure over the central United States, kind of then if it continues to kind of give that pass where it doesn't affect anyone. So that's kind of what we're watching right now. Just a good reminder, though, that we are in the middle of hurricane season, and it is that time of the year where we have to start paying attention.
Yes, indeedy do. It is that time of the year. Let me attempt to screen share here. I can show people exactly where we are in the average peak of the hurricane season, as we are now about halfway through. What are we in? We're in August, guys. And you can see we're on the steady up climb here for the average of the hurricane and tropical storm activity, with it peaking around September 10th. You can get hurricanes really any time of the year, but we are just coming into to the peak here. And, there's been a lot of interest in Tropical Storm Erin, it seems like, Frank. And I think for good reason. We had a lot of people in the Carolinas last year touched by a tropical storm, a life altering hurricane Helene coming through. I think we have a lot of new people tuned in to the tropics this year, a lot of excitement over where this storm could be going. And I've been trying to think about ways to really communicate how far out this storm is and how normal these tropical waves are. I mean, it is anticipated in August, in September, that we might get storms just like Erin. And best case scenario is that they curve back out to sea and we never hear from them again. I mean, so far it's pretty by the book. Frank, would you say that we've got a tropical storm, almost hurricane here in August?
Right. It's exactly what you expect. The hurricane season starts in June. Every now and then we get a development in May, but it starts in June. You expect to see it mostly quiet through June. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's a little more active, but you expect it to be mostly quiet in June and mostly quiet in July. And then you expect things to start to ramp up in August. The most active part of the hurricane season is essentially mid-August to mid-October, with the peak in mid-September. So you expect to see tropical storms and hurricanes out there this time of year, and for the 8-week period that lasts until around the middle of October.